Overlooking the lake is the Hermitage of San Domenico, which comprises a cave carved into the limestone rock where, according to tradition, Saint Dominic used to live. The miracles he performed are depicted in votive paintings on the porch of the hermitage. Just got back in the car to head to Scanno, and I have to say that San Domenico absolutely blew me away. The colour of that water just didn't seem real. The most vibrant blue I've ever seen, and just stunning scenery all around. The gorgeous mountains. I've just seen a deer on the side of the road, so I'm going to turn the camera around a second. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that quick break, but I am struggling to imagine that Scanno is going to be any more breathtaking than that, but let's see. I'm super excited. As you can see, Lago di Scanno is a lot bigger than Lago di San Domenico, but it has the same brilliant turquoise water and this little area for hiring pedalers, which we're hoping to do later. But the best views are to be had from above, so we're going to drive on a little further and park up and then hike to the top so I can show you the amazing heart-shaped lake. The walk up was very strenuous, so I didn't film anything because I was out of breath most of the time, but just look at the view from the top, it was well worth it. After the trek back down, we did stop briefly in the centre of Scanno to have a snack and coffee, but we didn't end up hiring a pedalo because it started to look very stormy out, as you'll be able to tell from the sky, and we only just made it back to the car before the heavens opened. All in all, I highly recommend a visit to these two lakes if you're a nature lover like me. Just remember to wear sensible shoes because it is quite a hike. I hope you've enjoyed that little trip into nature with me. Now, I realised I haven't done a Q&A for quite some time, and the last time I did one of these I had around 50 followers, and now I have nearly 500, so I thought it'd be a really nice opportunity to give a little reintroduction to myself and the channel. So for those of you that don't know, I moved to Italy in February 2023. I decided to sell my house in the UK to be able to live mortgage free out here, and I bought my place in Abruzzo and have been living happily here ever since. As I'm sure I've mentioned before, my aim with this channel has always been to show people how wonderful the region of Abruzzo is and hopefully bring some new life to the area, because that is one thing that we struggle with here, is having youngsters that are able to work and stay in the area. So thank you so much to anyone who sent in a question. I've got them here on my computer and I look forward to answering as many as I can. So question number one, were you raised in more of an Italian or an English household? So great question. For those of you that don't know, I was born in Italy, but we moved to England when I was young, so I did all of my schooling there and university and my master's as well. However, I definitely feel like I grew up in more of an Italian environment. My father is a chef and restaurateur, so all of the food we ate was Italian. Our TV was set to Italian channels, so that's all we watched. And just culturally, I would say my parents are from the south of Italy, so a lot more strict than my friends' parents were at the time, so no sleepovers and things. I didn't go out, I didn't really have much of a social life outside of school, I would say, and it's not something I'm complaining about at all. Maybe at the time I would have preferred to do a few more things, but I'm super grateful now because I think that it really helped me build very strong values, and so yes, absolutely something I'm grateful for now. I do remember one occasion where I'd heard that it was quite common to have a barbecue, and I'd never had one, obviously coming from Italy, and so I asked my dad if we could have one as well, and it was a very different experience, I think, to what my friends had. So he hand minced every single burger from the fillet, he homemade the mayonnaise, the ketchup, absolutely everything, so absolutely delicious, of course. Again, I'm not complaining, but yeah, definitely a different experience to those that were around me, I would say. And my other strong memory around that was going to a friend's house and her mum asking me if I wanted tomato sauce with something, and I fully expected that to mean like a pasta sauce, so when it arrived and it was ketchup, I was quite shocked. And I don't think I've eaten ketchup on many occasions since then, I have to say. It's not my favourite thing. In other ways, I guess I had a really good experience of the British side of things. So I went to an amazing grammar school, which I had actually found myself and just asked my parents to drop me off for the entrance exams, even though it was a year after the closing date and they had one space left. But I was really determined I wanted to go to this school that I'd heard great things about. And then I went off to Durham University, which was hands down the best experience of my whole life. So I would say I've been really lucky in being able to experience the best of both cultures. So next question from Alex. Thank you, Alex. What's your favourite season in Abruzzo? So speaking generally, Abruzzo aside, I am a summer girl through and through. I live for the summer, and when I lived in England, it became kind of an obsession because, as you know, if you're from the UK, sometimes you get one good day in maybe 20 or 30 days. So it became quite an obsession to sort of live for the moments where the sun came out. I have to say, now that I live in Italy and the seasons are pretty stable, so we had a very long summer. It was hot here from about May onwards this year, you know, consistently boiling. That means that I'm no longer trying to cling on to those sunny days as much, and I'm more ready when the seasons do change. So I am looking forward to autumn this year, and I do find Abruzzo particularly beautiful during autumn because you get those lovely sunny fresh mornings, the snow starts to reappear on the mountains. I can start taking Booby out for walks again because it's been so hot over the summer. I haven't really taken her out very much. So I would say that I can now appreciate every single season rather than just trying to cling on to the odd day of summer. Last year it didn't snow, which is quite rare for the mountains, and it didn't really get below around 14 degrees. So I think I may have a shock to the system coming this year, but at the same time I want to embrace the mountain way of life. So if that means several feet of snow, then I'm fully looking forward to that as well. Okay, next question. How does your old life in the UK compare to your new life in Abruzzo? Great question. I can honestly say, hand on heart, that not for a second have I looked back or regretted my decision at any point, even when the bureaucracy was beyond frustrating. So I think that's an excellent sign that I made the right choice to move here. In terms of quality of life, obviously I find the food a lot better here. Although living in Dorset and Somerset, I didn't really struggle to find good food there either, and I love cooking. It's just the difference that the sun makes in the quality of the ingredients, I would say, and also just the general importance of food to the people around me. I didn't really find that so many people shared my passion for good food, or I guess put as much importance on the quality of food as they do here. There's a lot more going on in rural places here than there was where I lived in England. So back in Somerset, we didn't really have a bus service. There were no community events. And here it's just the complete opposite. There's something going on every weekend, if not every day in the summer. People are just more willing to help you out, I think. So just the little things, like if I run out of something, someone from the supermarket will actually bring it to me rather than me having to go there. Or, you know, I'll get to the bar in the morning and someone's already paid for my breakfast, and just really little things like that that I think really do make a difference. In terms of the cost of living, I think I'd like to do a separate video on that because there's a lot of things to go into and explore. I know that I left the UK a year and a half ago and that the political landscape has changed quite dramatically since then, but also here the cost of living has gone up dramatically. So it'd be good to do a proper comparison of that. And then in terms of just how I feel generally, I suppose, I just feel more and more like myself. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but I suppose when I lived in the UK, I was always considered a foreigner, and there were certain maybe personality traits or interests I had where people wouldn't really understand me or would think that I was quite strange for enjoying those things, whereas here it's kind of the norm. And so generally, I suppose I just feel like I fit in a bit more. But yes, apart from missing Hellmann's mayonnaise and Cadbury's chocolate, I am not regretting my decision at all. Daisy asks, how easy was it to integrate into a small community? And I think that's a really important question to ask if you're thinking of moving here full time. To be honest, it's not the easiest thing, and not because people aren't welcoming. They really have been, and obviously I don't have the language barrier, which makes things a lot more simple. But because in these small communities, people tend to have grown up together and know absolutely everything about each other. So even when you become part of a group, you don't have that level of history with them that they do. So it can be quite difficult to feel like you're really connected. And obviously there's a lack of young people in these small areas as well, and that's something to be aware of. I think if you're considering moving out here, then think about who is going to be your support network. If you don't speak Italian, then obviously you're going to probably rely quite heavily on expat groups. Even if you do speak some Italian, I think it can be quite hard to just feel like yourself abroad. So I'm thinking of other languages I know, but maybe not fluently. Sometimes you feel very confident in your own language and like you can talk about any subject and, you know, be super intelligent and witty. But then as soon as you're speaking a different language and you can't fully express yourself, you almost lose a part of your personality because other people can't see that witty, amazing, brilliant, knowledgeable side of you because you just don't have the language to express it. So I definitely think there are lots of considerations if you're thinking of moving to Italy. It's definitely worth it, but you need to be well prepared, I would say. Next question, what advice would you give to someone considering moving to Italy full time? So I guess the first thing to think about is making sure you're clear on what your reasons are for moving here. I guess people enjoy the idea of moving to this fairy tale, and it can be a fairy tale. I'm not saying it can't be. I'm obviously having the time of my life. But if you have certain problems that exist back home in your own country, they're not just going to miraculously disappear overnight. In fact, they might even be magnified because you're taken out of your comfortable environment and in this new place where you potentially don't know anybody. So just make sure you've really thought through your reasons for moving. Definitely get ahead on learning some Italian, even if it's just conversational, because you really will feel lost without it. And especially if you move somewhere small like this, it's not like wherever you go people will speak English. That's not a given at all. If you want that, you're better off going to a bigger city, and the further north you go, I would probably say it's more likely because of industry and businesses that more people speak English. And I guess just don't try and have the life that you have at home here. You know, embrace all of the different cultural aspects, embrace all the differences, and just get stuck in, do as much as you can, take up every invite, and just live life to the full. What plans do you have coming up for the autumn and winter months? So I've definitely got a few bits I want to get done on the house. So I need to change the doors, redecorate upstairs, and obviously my drive is always to make things look nice for Christmas. So that will keep me moving forward, I think. And then I've got 2 projects I want to do outside, which I just think will make these cozy seasons even more cozy. And I also have my best friend and her husband coming to visit in December, so I want to get that done, ready for them visiting. But I won't say too much more about that now because I'm going to do another video on that. Okay, last question, and I've saved this till last because it's so insightful. I really wanted to be able to think about it and give it the time it deserved. And this comes from a beautiful lady that I know via Instagram. So she said that she's obviously followed me on socials and she's seen that I have lots of varied interests. And her question is, how do I deal with the fact I have lots of interests and I've done lots of different jobs without feeling a little bit lost? So if you watched my last Q&A, I did go into a little bit more about my career background and how I've done so many different things. And I guess it can be quite hard for people to understand. It's not just a lack of focus, it's that I really do have lots and lots of passions. So I enjoy interior design, I enjoy reading, I enjoy cooking, I'm a musician, I'm really interested in data analysis and computer programming and so many different things. And I guess that's reflected in my career by the fact that I've done all these different things, because I tend to get very bored after around a year to a year and a half and feel like I need to change jobs again. So back when I was studying for my master's, I did some psychology, and There's obviously this theory that you've probably heard of where people have a more dominant left or right brain, so left brain being more logical and data driven, and your right brain being sort of more artistic and creative. So as part of that, I did these tests that everybody did, and I was the only person to come out with 50% of each, exactly equal, both sides equally dominant. And I think you can kind of tell that from my variety of interests. So I was aware that maybe this was something slightly different to the norm. And then I went on a course for work about 3 or 4 years ago, and one of the activities was about finding your word. And so you had to say, my purpose in life is, and then your word. And as it went round the room, everybody seemed to find this activity quite simple. And I was just sat there thinking, oh my God, I can think of at least 20 words that are my purpose in life. I don't have just one. And after this wonderful woman asked me this question, I did a little bit more research into it, and I didn't realise there's actually a term for people like us, and we are apparently called multi-potentialites. And that means you just have a variety of strengths in different areas. So instead of starting something and trying it and giving up and moving on to something else, that's not the idea at all. It's that we start something, we tend to progress very quickly at it, achieve something, and then decide to move on to something else. So, you know, for me it might be writing a book, done that, happy with that, move on to learning a new instrument. Then when I've done that, I'm happy with that and I want to move on to something else straight away. So I guess it does make you feel a little lost sometimes, because a lot of people will go through school, they know they want to be a doctor, they study sciences, they go off to university, and then they become a doctor, and then they practice the rest of their life, and it's all very focused. But I don't really see it as being a bad thing. I think modern day culture has led us to believe that we need to specialise really early. You know, when you pick your GCSEs when you're only 16, and then your A-levels when you're only 17 or 18. But when you think about history back in the day, it was actually a really good thing for people to be well-rounded individuals. And I remember studying a book by Baldassare Castiglione called The Book of the Courtier. Bless you, baby. And it was all about being the Renaissance man, and the Renaissance man knew how to do everything. He wasn't just an expert in one thing, and it was considered a really great quality. So I do think it's a bit sad that we've lost that. So circling back to the original question, I do think it's a little bit of a disadvantage when you're applying for jobs, because at that point when you only exist on paper as a CV, I don't think many employers want to see that you've done 10 different jobs in vastly different arenas. But I personally think of it as a superpower. I think it means that I'm almost never stressed. I can work under huge amounts of pressure. I can generate ideas really easily, and I can link quite abstract concepts as well. So if anyone else out there is a multi-potentialite, or you think you might be, then please drop me a comment below. There are also some really good resources online which I will link in the description box, but there's something called the Puttyverse which I've just discovered, which is a community of other people who have this superpower. So it's a really interesting topic to explore. Thank you so much for all the questions you sent in. I could go on forever, but I'll leave it there. And on that note, Connie, I haven't forgotten that you've asked me to look into some locations which would be a good shout for living in Italy full time. So I have one more video to upload after this, and then I promise I will investigate for you. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.